Yeah, no?
Yes.
Okay, so today we're doing crayon melt monotypes. So that's why you brought the crayons home with you. And I'm doing this outside because it's kind of a beautiful day, but also because there's going to be some wax smelliness. I like to use an iron for this, so I've got it powered up. It's like ready to go. It's on the very highest setting. If you do not have an iron, or you don't want to mess your iron up, I have like a couple of old irons that are messed up that I use. I certainly don't use my wife's really nice one. I would upset her. So you can use a hairdryer, put it on a high setting if you glue down some of your wax pieces. So a monotype, kind of like the cyanotype that we did last week, is a one-of-a-kind print. And so that means you're not going to be able to duplicate it. Students really like this because of the colorful nature of it, but also because it's kind of experimental, like a lot of the art projects that I do with the students. It is a bit windy, so I'm going to put some weights on this. I guess before I do that, I should fold this. I'm going to show a couple of different ways to do this. The folding method works the best, I feel like. Obviously, when you're teaching this project with kids, you have to be careful because you're dealing with hot stuff, and depending on the age of the kids, you know, you're not going to want to give them X-Acto knives or anything like that. So what I've done is I've used safety scissors, and I'll have the kids take like one of my ceramics rags, and they would wrap it around the blade and the handle, and then they could use that to shave. I certainly would never again do that with super duper young kids. If you've got really, really young kids, you might have a student assistant, or what you could do is crush up some crayons this way, or give them little tiny bits and have them glue them down so that they can work on fine motor skills, and then you can help them by ironing their stuff, and then they get to reveal it, so do the cool part. But the older kids, they can use things you know, that are a little bit more dangerous. So I'm just going to start by shaving away from myself. You want thinner pieces. These big pieces like this have a tendency to be difficult to melt, but sometimes they create the coolest the coolest effects. So I'm going to do analogous colors to start with, meaning I'm going to use color families here. So a lot of what we've been doing have to do with the color wheel project, and that's why I had y'all do this. So yellow and green and blue together are going to look really harmonious. Plus, I can do a watercolor wash over this that dramatically changes the nature of the print. Let's see. Go with this lighter one here. Looks like it's a cheaper, older crayon, but sometimes that's a better idea. Don't want that to happen. I knew that would. I'm trying to keep the wind from being an issue. Okay, I'm gonna go with a little bit of white. Sometimes adding white to darker colors creates kind of a cool effect. And you want a lot of wax on there, because the more wax you get on there, the better it's gonna look. And I'm just gonna kind of concentrate it here in the middle. It's gonna create a symmetrical print. I'm gonna carefully fold this up right now because I'm not feeling this wind situation. Now what I'll do is I'll take a piece of paper. Honestly, newspaper is better with this, but I have all this extra paper anyway, so I'm just gonna go ahead and use that. Gotta love Kansas. So what I do just to get this started is I go on the heaviest stuff first, and you'll see that wax start to come through as it melts. I just kind of rest it on there. I don't really want to force it to happen. I just want to go nice and smooth until everything's melted to the same thickness, and let that wax really soak into the paper. Once I feel like I've got that one area going, I'm going to go ahead and just go all over the place. Good idea to have some cardboard down, or when I used to teach in the elementary schools, I would keep like old pieces of masonite around. So go ahead and pull that It looks cool already. You want to open it before it has a chance to really like cool, because if it does cool, it's going to stick together. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and bring this over to my water bath. You wouldn't necessarily have to do it this way, but I like to do it this way because by sticking it in a water bath like this, I can get it nice and wet, and then I can go ahead and apply a watercolor wash out here. And because we know that water and wax are going to be repellent toward one another, all the areas out here that I paint with watercolor are going to fill, and it's going to avoid these spots. So I could use complementary colors to really pop that green out. So I could use some red around it if I wanted to. I'm just gonna get it in there just long enough to feel it kind of start to get flimsy. And I've prepared my watercolors over here by adding a bunch of water into all my colors first, so that I know when I dip in there I'm gonna get a heavy pigment load. That looks pretty good. Now an easier alternative to this would be to spray these down. Or with your kids, you know, you can have them just dip in and paint, but you want them to add water first so that they actually have a wash. I'm just gonna carefully hold this above. Another alternative would be to like fill up a sink with some water, kind of like we did with the cyanotype. So this is all about printmaking without any equipment. And the only equipment you really need for this are like old crayons, watercolor, and iron. It's kind of a heat source, right? And I like glass to lay this down. Let's see, I'm just gonna go for some compliments here. Drop some red around there. And I usually keep my wash pretty light and then build up later. Because as you know, this paper, while it's a good economy paper, it's a good wet dry paper, but it's certainly not like the mixed media papers that I would use for high school, college students. So the more we scrub it, the more it's gonna end up getting balled up and all that stuff, and it's going to become an issue. So I'm just going to add a little pigment and let it sit. Do the same thing to the other side. Maybe I'll incorporate a little orange, because that orange is going to help that green advance as well. The orange on that blue is going to look nice too, because those are complements as well. This was always an extremely popular project when I taught it at elementary school. And when I taught it last year, or now I guess year and a half, I don't know, how long have we been in this new building? When I taught it in Rarick, my classroom was right next to the dean's office, and he would come out and he would say, "Oh, I could tell you're doing that crayon melt monotype project again," because you could just smell the wax everywhere. It's kind of the way I'd like to do it outside on a nice day. I'm gonna let that sit, maybe do one more real quick. This one I'm gonna try a different technique with. I'm not going to fold this time. Just gonna set this aside, put that on top maybe. This time what I'm gonna do is I'm going to make these crayons, man, going all over the place. Maybe my deck's not level. This time what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for a smaller print. Instead of folding it, I'm just going to create a flat print that's not symmetrical, so I can kind of manipulate a little bit how I want the print to come out. And I was digging through my old crayons and I found some like gold ones and some brass and other colored ones. So I'm gonna try a lot of different things here, a lot of different colors. Trying to get in close so that I can shield that wind with my body. Maybe I'll use bigger chunks this time. Another cool thing to do would be to put this in like a coffee can or a plastic cup, and then you can have the kids dig out of it. Or put it into a rag and have them smash it up with hammers. I'm just gonna kind of go all over the place. Notice I'm not using any black, right? Black has a tendency to destroy a lot of the colorful nature of the print, so I certainly don't want to do that. These newer crayons are so much nicer to shave. Big old chunks of orange in there. Now I'm gonna go after this gold thing. I love gold. And here comes the wind. Oh. There you went. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna hurt myself by cutting more off of that one. Let's go for this weird grain. And I'm gonna drop some big chunks of white in the middle. Off to the side. What's that? Maroon. Drop a little maroon in there too. So this is going to be a really, really saturated print. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to double this up. I might even use this one here. I could probably get 2 prints out of this. The one on top and the one on the bottom. Okay, again, I'm starting slow. Max heat, especially since I have more layers of paper now. You're not kidding, there are bugs out here already. So it's too early in the season for bugs. Yeah, all those big chunks in there, I can feel them rolling around. They really don't want to do much right now. Starting to melt though. Once they start to melt, I can start moving to other big chunky areas. The main thing when you have a lot of wax like this is that once you get everything kind of melted down to the paper, then what you want to do is you want to do some really good consistent passes with your iron just to keep everything nice and hot so that when you pull it apart, it doesn't stick together by cooling. I've done this on griddles too. That's kind of fun. My summer class, we do encaustic prints. Encaustic prints are basically wax prints. And you buy this pigmented wax. I know that's a fancy word for crayons, right? But it actually has this damar resin in it, so it's very much like paint, and it looks like paint once you printed it too. It doesn't look like crayons. And what we do is we take big griddles and we just like paint all over the griddle while it's warm, and then drop paper right on top. It comes off really cool. It is hard to make prints though that resemble anything. This is pretty much an abstract process, but I think sometimes that's what's so gratifying for kids, when they can make something that looks like art, feels like art, smells like art. Alright, I'm ready. I feel like I got everything kind of like worked out, but I'm going to pull up a side just to check. It's all about the same color at this point. I'm going to go back in there and keep that warm. Break up some of that copper with some red. That's kind of cool. Another cool thing is, like, after these have set up, if you want to get them to run or drip down or anything, you can tape them up to the wall and hit them with a hairdryer and get them to kind of run down. And you know, you see the stuff all over Pinterest where the people like glue all of the crayons on there and then, oh yay, it's a rainbow crayon melty thing. But now you know that it's actually, it's got a legit artistic method and terminology. Yeah, let's take a look here. It's an encaustic print. I like that way better. In fact, I think I might let that drip just a little bit. Now I want to come back to this one and melt it a little more. To the water. Oh, that's beautiful in the sunlight. That's really beautiful in the sunlight. I might actually use a little black in the negative space on this one. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this one up, take it inside, let it dry. The other thing that's nice about having the bath of water is that if you do have this like runny stuff here, it'll cool it off right away so it quits moving. And you do want to be careful about like picking and moving and everything. Kids love to pick things. You might have to tell them, no, don't do that. I'll start some blue first. There we go. Getting that pretty well. Now just because this, you know, is a wax and water kind of repel thing, you're gonna have some students that'll try to test that out and load paint up over some of this stuff, and then they'll be like, see, it doesn't work. But yeah, sure, if you load up enough of that paint on top, it's gonna sit there, but it'll also wipe right off. It's not gonna stay on that wax like it would in the paper. Drop a little black down here just to get some good contrast. So you can see clearly, you know, I'm always harping about core content connection and making sure that you're integrating art methods into your lessons to keep the kids excited and engaged. You can see easily how this could be a science connection with the wax and water scenario. It's a great way to illustrate properties of things. I'll some on here. Some violet maybe. But I want some like really intense black on this side. That's violet. And you can see I did get some on top of my encaustic there, so I'm just gonna go ahead and dab that off later, but cool. I look forward to seeing what you all come up with. Give it a shot, be careful, yeah. And experiment a little bit. So very cool. I will see you guys later on.